Awkward.
There we go. See, just, you know what? I just tell people that we are a professional shit show. That's what we do.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It is what we do. We are a professional shit show. Let me make sure the volume's up over here. Sorry about my hand in everybody's face. All right, everybody. What's going on, people? We are back. Happy New Year to everybody. We are starting the new year out with the one and only Lew Temple. Lew, want to say what's up to everybody?
Hey, so nice to see you all. I'm excited to be here on BMNY, and I really appreciate you having me, and I appreciate kicking the year off. This is my first appearance of 2019. I'm entirely excited to be here this evening, and also just for 2019. It feels like everyone I've talked to is jazzed about 2019, and I think part of that is because 2018 sucked.
It's true.
Unequivocally, it's hard to just say, and I hate to put that label on any particular year. Yeah. You know, that's like very judgmental, but I actually don't know anyone that's like, yay, 2018, I was kicking ass, and I'm going to keep, it's mainly what I'm hearing is 2018, I got my ass kicked. I learned a lot of lessons, and I'm ready to clean slate and change gears. What about you guys? What about y'all? What's your tone for 2019 as compared to 2018?
I mean, honestly, for me personally, I'm just trying to take care of myself better than I did last year. You know, I hate to keep bringing it back to it, but I had that seizure in Georgia, and you know, I that was a wake up call for me. So
yeah,
I'm really just trying to take care of myself now.
So 2018 sucked for you, but the lesson learned of it was a good wake up call. So, you know, I think we definitely in life get the we get what we need, right? Yeah. You needed a little awareness, self awareness, and 18 gave you that. But let's not do that again, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No,
because I mean, I'll beat his ass if he does it again. He knows that.
Yeah. That's not what he needs either.
No.
Yeah.
2018 wasn't terrible. I mean, a lot of great things happened in 2018.
Yeah. Good.
No,
because that's good. That's good springboard for 2019. That's good energy for 2019. That's some of us are trying to reboot for 19, but it sounds like you have a good running start into 2019 with some good positive stuff.
Trying. I mean, if you don't mind, actually, we were waiting.
Please.
We got some very good news today.
Amazing news, honestly.
For us, yeah. And
amazing news. What year is it?
2019.
Thank you. Okay.
So yeah, I got to. There's only two people that know. Three people that know. One is obviously Ryan. The other one is Oscar Rodriguez, and the other one being my fiancée Vanessa. So I was called today by a producer from New York Comic Con.
Reed Pop.
Yeah, he does Reed Pop, and
big players.
Yes.
Big players, ladies and gentlemen.
So because of everyone who's probably in this chat right now on the live feed, who went out there and basically reached out to a tweet that they put out asking about their favorite podcast from 2018.
Yep.
Wow.
Now we don't have the largest following, okay, but what we do have is probably one of the most loyal, dedicated, family-oriented following you could have or ask for.
Nice.
And these people went to bat for us, and each one of them hit a grand slam.
Yay.
And because of that, they reached out, New York Comic Con reached out to us, this gentleman named Matt, and we now have, for October of 2019, we now have a 90-minute live stage show at New York Comic Con this year.
That's huge.
It's
huge. You know how many people have that? Not many.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say there's a handful of options or opportunities, and so that's well earned, well deserved, and as you said, well supported by your audience.
Yeah.
As this family that you've created. What do you call your audience? What's your?
They are the Beast Mode family.
Yeah.
That's what
BMNY
family. They're the BMNY family.
Beast Mode family.
Yep.
Familia. I love that. Congratulations. That's big news. Well done.
Thank you.
And that's a huge show. And I'm hoping that the local BMs are able to attend and be part of that.
I have some people that that we know, artists, vendors, stuff like that go yearly anyway. That'll be there.
Yep. Like Kirk, he's a good friend of ours. Kirk Manley. He does all the Walker Stalker show posters.
They'll be there anyway. Yeah, they're great. That's a huge show. It's akin to the Walker Stalker show, bigger actually.
Yeah, I go to every year.
It's a great show, and it's kind of an entertainment release party as well. It's sort of San Diego Comic-Con-ish,
second too, right? It's the second one, second largest.
Yep.
Yeah, second only to San Diego.
So I'm just checking our Instagram. It's a little hard to do it, but I'm doing it. It's okay. We got this. We got this. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
That's big news. So you see, you took a positive from 2018 and ran it into 2019.
It just proves though we are nothing without any of you. I started this in my basement with a laptop and a microphone. Doing audio, and
especially when you think like an hour and a half ago, a year and a half ago, we had a tripod set up with a camcorder, and it would be literally a matter of Chris and I and Matt filming our show, and then Chris, trying to upload it to YouTube and letting it upload to YouTube while he slept because we both worked the overnights at the hospital. And so, then he and I going to work, and us sitting in the office scrolling through the video trying to make sure it actually uploaded correctly. and then Peter Zimmerman, Eduardo, he reached out to us, wanted to be on the show, and then he was like, "Hey,
thanks to Oscar.
Thanks to Oscar.
Yeah,
Oscar hooked that up." And Peter was like, "Hey, do you guys do live, live broadcasts?" We're like,
"Yeah, of course."
We can.
I had no idea what we were doing.
No, not at all.
No idea. A lot of
that's like going into casting sometimes, and they ask if you can ride a horse.
Yeah,
and a lot of dudes say, "Yeah," like guys from New York, from the city, and I could ride a horse. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you get down to set, you can't ride a horse. It shows up fast, but you could broadcast live. You did it somehow.
Yeah. It took a lot of Googling, but we nailed it. Yeah. And now we have you and
look at you.
One of the highlights, like one of the biggest highlights from Atlanta, was being with you at the after party, at the Halloween party, getting a photo with you, and
that's fun.
And meeting you.
Do you know how angry I was? Because so this is what happened, right? So I'm like, Chris, we're at the Halloween party, and I'm like, Chris, I gotta go take a leak. He's all right. So I walk out. And I go to the bathroom. I walk out of the bathroom, and I happen to run into Xander Berkeley and Oscar Rodriguez. And Xander's become also a very good friend of ours. And so I ended up going with Oscar and Xander. We went to like the VIP section or whatever the hell it was. And so then I'm like, shit, where's Chris? So I'm like, I gotta go get him. So I find this guy, and he's like, yo, bro, look at this. I got a selfie with Lew. And I'm like...
You had Xander and Oscar. I mean, that didn't suck.
Yeah, no.
Okay,
not at all.
Oscar's getting really upset. Hi, Oscar. Yes, Oscar. We acknowledge that you're in the party. Hi, Oscar.
Lew, please say hello to Oscar.
Oscar, it's good to see you, brother. I've been talking you up all evening already. So we've been giving you props, and my comment, and I'll just say it publicly, is as much as you've become a part of the Walking Dead family, part of the Beast Mode family. You're an essential part of the artist family. And not just Walking Dead. I've seen your art that depicts other caricatures, and it's really stand up and lives on its own accord, has its own essential essence. And I think that for all you do that is attached to the program, there's an Oscar that whose art stands alone on its own, without association as well, and that's always impressed me. So if we didn't know who you were, didn't know your personality, we would totally notice your art. And still, and Xander Berkeley in his own right is quite an artist, and I think he's always sought out other artists, and you know, artists do that. They find birds of a feather, and so Oscar has a wide array of plumage. Let's put it that way. Yeah,
I spoke with him about the new piece he just did of Alpha, and I told him. I said, listen, Oscar, you've done a lot of great stuff, but to date, the Alpha that you did gave me like chills. You know, just the leery green eyes with the, you know, the dead skin and the finger saying and everything like that. I told him, I said it was probably one of the most like creepy, disturbing, beautiful pieces I've seen him put together to date.
How are we responding as a audience to this impending new radical ingredient into our world with these whispers? Huh?
I mean, as a fan and as a lover of the comics, I am thoroughly excited.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
I know that there's, you know, people say, oh no, they're scared, they're worried, who's going to die, this and that. And I've always been one of the people who, obviously, I read the comics first, so I was always a step ahead. But then when the show started making deviations, I was completely okay with it. You know, a lot of people obviously feel slighted by the death of Carl, by, you know, Andrew and everything like that.
People have always felt a certain type of way because the way that Walking Dead does things on the show is very different than the comics. Like, they take their own liberties with certain things,
right?
And that goes back to even the season that you were on, Lew. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things were always not done the exact same way, and people always felt slighted by that. But I want to say it was Kirkman that said it. He was like, "What fun would it be if you could predict what's going to happen?"
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, come on. It's in life we don't know. I mean, we don't know one day to the next, and you didn't know you were going to get a call or the last few days, Chris, from the New York Read Pop Comic Con about an invitation. I mean, these are the delights of life. They're also the tragedies of life. Yeah. And I've always maintained that the wisdom of the unknown is exciting.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because typically it's better than to support what Robert Kirkman said. It's better than what we could outline for ourselves.
Right.
The unknown has a better plan than we do.
Yeah.
And it would be rather mundane or boring because we just make it perfectly safe, or we wouldn't. It'd be so reckless that we'd all be destroyed. But one way or another, it works. And there's a lot of time in my world where the unknown is terrorizing and frightening.
Yeah.
And how am I going to provide? How am I going to, you know, as an artist, you don't always have a kind of a safety or a regular, structured setup. You know, that the environment changes quickly or very slowly. There are times we sit around waiting for that next opportunity, and that's all in the unknown. And there's a process, the faith process, that's attached to the unknown, which is, to me, what being a human is, and what The Walking Dead is about, which is hope. I've always said and maintained that The Walking Dead is about hope and having hope. So I feel like we get most nervous as an audience, of which I am part of, that when we sense that hope is being lost, or we're a little nervous now because of the drastic change. The sheriff's left. These are evolutions, though, and new blood's coming. So we can be very uncertain and terrorized by it, typically, very anxious about it. But people like you, Chris, will lead us into it's going to be okay, because it's always going to be okay.
Right.
And man, the people in my life that are like that for life, not for The Walking Dead, but for life, that tell me, hey, dude, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. And they're gold. They're gold. And we all need them. And we need to be them for each other as much as ever in these days, these times. It's going to be all right. Man, what a mess. I had a terrible day. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. That's good. That's good. I got fired from my job. Great.
It's all about being human.
Because you're gonna bounce, and you're gonna bounce into something better than what that job was keeping you from doing. But it never feels like that, right. Guys. Look, when you can't pay your cell phone bill or whatever, or your rent this month, it sucks badly, and it feels like the end of the world. So, and I know that, and I can appreciate. So, I think The Walking Dead on air has to connect with life, with us,
right?
Particularly living, breathing, 3-dimensional life, 4-dimensional life, and the graphic novels attend to the 2-dimension, a little bit more of a controlled structure. This is how it goes, because they can put an end to it, you see, and he can tie it all up with the last issue and say we're all done, that was it, but life goes on, so we do all that. But I diverse. I apologize.
No, listen, we love it when. Yeah. Like, this is why everybody. There has not been one person in the chat who has not said, "Please tell Lew that I love him."
Like, oh, that's so sweet. I love everyone too. Hey, you notice, and you know this, but as being part of the show and the show itself, we don't actually refer to the fans, or we don't call them fans as much as we refer to them as an audience. And what that means is it's part of the other wall, the other dimension. They're the third dimension. You see, they're the audience, which requires them to be participatory or to participate. They're engaged. So they're as actively involved with the show as the show is with them. And so we don't actually, we kind of give them a lot of responsibility for being the audience, being focused, letting us know what we're doing right and what we're not doing right, and what's happening and not happening. Things like I Love Lew are really taken deeply to heart and appreciated, because I know that's just not surface talk. Yeah. Because I have met a lot of the audience out at the shows, and it's always a pleasure. And so, these types of opportunities to chat, and that's why most of us go out to be part of the public appearances, conventions, because we really want to get to know the audience and be part of that family, because it is such a family. It's amazing. Did you know, Chris, you said you were a big fan of the comics prior to the show.
Yes.
Did you forecast this sort of frenzy for the show?
No, I mean, sometimes it sucks when you know what's coming or what's going to happen, because especially when you have, when we do the show like this and we're talking to somebody and trying to not give away a spoiler or something that
sure
they might be leading to that is coming. I mean, listen, there's been disappointments as well. You know, being a comic book fan, you know, and most of it is obviously like the gore factor, where someone who doesn't mind a good gory scene, you know.
Sure.
And I always reference to, you know, the people who say, "Oh, the show's too violent, it's too this, it's too that," and I'm like, if you read the comic, you'd have a real good idea of what violent gore is. Like, you know, like the show.
A good example is like Spencer's death in the comics. I mean, like, when he got killed in the show, his guts kind of like, he holds them in and you just see a lot of blood and stuff.
Right.
In the comics, when he gets gutted, his guts go like everywhere. I mean, it's graphic, you know?
I always go to the death scene. Well, not the death scene, but the scene where Michonne goes and gets revenge on the governor.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, if they would have even touched a snippet of what she did to him, people would have bugged out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she cuts the damn dude's penis off.
Yeah.
Or nails it to a board, right? She nails it to a board, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
when I first saw The Walking Dead in the form of, because I think of having a life in the genre, the horror genre, it was brought across my desk, you know, hey, you should see this graphic novel, this comic. And I thought, oh, it's really good. It's really graphic. They will never do a television show on this.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot do this.
Yeah.
This will never be on TV. Cut to. And so you're right. And I also, to comment about the people that are nervous about the violence, it is violence, but there's something else I think that's being mistaken for violence, and that is terror.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a certain element of terror, of unknown, that is being mistaken for actual violence.
Yeah.
What he or she might do is so much worse than what they're actually doing. You know, we're creating that, which I think is fantastic use of imagination and use of character buildup. You know, we were so nervous what Negan was going to do next for that season. How violent was he, actually? Pretty violent, yeah. Mm-hmm. Could have been worse.
Yeah.
So I do feel like there's a great use of emotional hostaging with the audience.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what he's going to do. And some of it does go hand in hand with the comics, and some of it does not. I feel like when I was on the show, interestingly, season 3, all roads led to the sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we did was about Rick Grimes, or getting him moving forward, or cleaning up whatever mess had been made and moving forward. And all storylines sort of, even to a fault, a little bit, like the governor storyline still was directed through Rick. You know, he was going to have to deal with Rick for the most part, making amends with Rick and trying to get along. And that changed, right? Let's call it. For me, that changed. I think Terminus sort of was also a problem for Rick. But when we got to like Alexandria, there were other stories with other problems, right? That didn't involve Rick. And we started really evolving. So my point about this is the show really evolved. And the show became bigger than it had ever been. And the writers for the show had to start attending to different storylines, several different storylines that were important and heavy. And I don't think the writing room had ever had to experience that before. So, and now the show continues to evolve. So when we get a little nervous about Andrew Lincoln leaving the show, or you know, Chandler Riggs, Carl leaving the show, I think there is reason to be upset, for sure. But you should feel good about the evolution of the show, too. It's ahead of its time doing that. Yeah. And, you know, it's ahead of its time. You know, look, the New York Yankees aren't still talking about Derek Jeter, okay, just for instance. He's stopped him for a long time. Best Yankee ever, arguably. But they're continuing to move through with Judge and Stanton and Torres and now Tulowitzki and these guys, Voight, and time stops for no man, and nor does The Walking Dead. So we keep moving, right?
We do. I mean, since the new characters have come aboard, I honestly, do I miss seeing Andrew on the show? Yeah, but I don't think the show has really missed a step. I don't think it's missed a stride at all.
Mm-mm.
So,
I think it's interesting too because the show recognizes the show has us, whether we want to admit it or not.
mm-hmm.
The show you're gonna be with the show until if it ever does and until it ends.
Yeah.
But there's some young people that the show is growing. There's young players on the show. This is the youngest cast I think ever, right? The cast of the show,
and getting younger it seems too.
And so there's bound to be a younger audience.
Right.
There's really, so I don't know of a show that's done that before. Recognized, hey, let's grow some of our audience.
Mm-hmm.
We got the old guys. The old guys aren't there. We got them. We got the OGs. We got them. And we might even cross over and throw a few OGs in that sister show we have, and keep our OGs in line and still keep them fertilized and growing. But we're going to grow a young audience. Do you
follow Fear too or no?
Not as much. The first year I followed Fear and I was excited because I had some ideas about what I thought the show could do, of which they did not. I found the first show to be rather clumsy, not so much in and of itself, but as a viewer, because see, we had already looked under the bed and in the closet. And we already knew so much that the show didn't know. So I found myself doing, don't do that. That's not how you, that's stupid. Don't, why are you can't do, and I felt that I was misappropriated for the show. And I felt like a lot of us might have given up on the show that first season. But look, now the show has evolved, and it's kind of found its way, man. And it's getting really interesting. And I think, I feel like I give them a lot of credit. I think they wanted Fear the Walking Dead to stand on its own.
Yeah.
And I think they worked hard to do that, and I think it does. So I give the producers a lot of credit in that realm. And I may not have been on board with that, but that's my fault. So I give everyone credit for who hung in there on it.
Have you thought about checking out the newer seasons now or no?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, of course. Yes. I'm a huge Lenny James fan, so it's hard for me not to just watch whatever he's doing.
Yeah.
He lives not far from me here in Los Angeles, so I even go to the grocery market hoping to see him. Although that being said, I saw him in Atlanta. We were talking. He said, "Man, I'm in Texas most of the time now, filming Fear the Walking Dead. They film in Austin, so and it's exciting because that." Our old buddy Dwight is found his way. Apparently, is that public news, or did I break that?
No, it's public.
Yeah, that's public.
Yeah, I saw comicbook.com posted about it.
Yeah,
that's great. And it's funny. I love Emilio. We chat when we get to see each other, and we didn't know each other prior to being out at conventions or anything. But a lot of people think Dwight and Axel have a certain
likeness?
Yeah. Brothers, dad, uncle thing. Yep. And I always kind of appreciated that. I like that.
You just said that, and as soon as you did, it clicked in my head.
Yeah, seriously.
Yep.
Yeah, Axel is a lot more gregarious and outgoing, wearing his heart on his sleeve. Of course, he might not have had so much burden to bear. Dwight's had a lot to deal with in life, man. Not that anyone else hasn't, but yeah, he's got a lot of dark in his world.
Well, let's dive into the world that you had as Axel. Lisa Marie has a question. She says, "I really liked your character on The Walking Dead. If his life hadn't ended so abruptly in the prison, where would you have liked to see Axel's storyline go?"
That's a great question, Lisa Marie. I always think of the actress Lisa Marie as opposed to Elvis Presley's daughter, Lisa Marie. But the actress Lisa Marie, who I guess was Tim Burton's girlfriend or muse for a long time. Do you remember? And she was super cool in, Ed Wood movies. And so now you, Lisa Marie, are super cool because you asked a super cool question. I think that Axel generally was trying to fit in. He was very gregarious, but just really liked being associated with the group and had recognized that he could be serviceable to Rick's group. So I think he would have been a guy that helped with a certain moral compass along the lines that Herschel did, perhaps. Mm-hmm. Maybe some like old school Southern colloquial wisdom and threw in there. That being said, we had several conversations, when I say we, writers, showrunners, about Axel, as you recall, in the graphic novel, had a little baggage, or he had some dirty activity that he did. He was a little dark himself, and we might have exposed a little bit of that as Axel continued. That was the conversation going forward, and then we actually got painted into a corner with the governor showing up once and then twice for the war, the second time being the war. But he needed to show up and draw first blood, and he needed to actually have blood. And it was a big conversation about whose blood was it going to be, who was going down with that first shot. And so, but I do think, Lisa Marie, that Axel would have served Rick. I think Axel's motivation typically is a peacemaker. Let's make peace with the governor if we can. Let's try to. But I think that he recognized he would fight. If it moved forward, I think Axel also understands there is fight or flight, those two things. And I think when you're around a campfire, being held hostage, regardless of being surrounded, you're going to have to take an affirmative as opposed to waiting for sweet Lucille to do what she's going to do. Right. So I think Axel may not have stayed. He might have played a bit more like Daryl in that realm, and tried. He might have shit the bed for everybody in that, like Daryl did. Let's be honest, a little bit. Yeah. But you think about these hostage situations. I think about these horrible things where everybody down on your knees, hands above your head. With the terrorist, any military guy will say that is not what you do. Right. You are setting yourself. You're becoming a target. So all those are projections of Axel. But entirely, he would ingratiate himself and try and be a good mechanic and be part of the team.
Yeah, because you did offer to fix Daryl's bike a few times there, I believe.
If you only listened.
Now, as a follow-up question to that, now we saw that Axel and Carol had a couple of moments. Do you think that would have developed if Axel had not been killed off?
There's an episode that Carol and Axel are conspicuously missing, and the reference is where's Axel? Oh, he's in the generator room working on the Jenny with Carol was made. So, I think it might have could have consummated at least a relationship, at least a friendship. Yeah. I think that Carol was looking to talk and looking for a listener, and Axel was a pretty good ear, but definitely a guy that talks, a lot like Lew.
At that point in the prison,
this guy talks too much. We can't write for him. So yeah, I think that at least a friendship with Carol, and then of course you all know the joke or the big tease is that any guy that's around Carol is dead. To call her the Black Widow maker. I mean, come on.
I was just gonna make that statement that at that point in the prison, I mean, in the timeline of The Walking Dead, her husband was killed.
Mm-hmm.
Not that long before the prison.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. She was pretty damaged property.
Yeah.
And as we had it in the show as well, you recall she'd been missing. She'd been MIA for quite some time before she was found. So there was a certain, I think that's when the transition for Carol, having been in hiding, MIA in the prison breakout, coming back, having T-Dog sacrifice himself on her behalf. I think she started evolving from being the battered victim to recognizing what she could be and also what she wanted to be or what she owed to her fallen friends and family, her daughter and someone like T-Dog and Lori and all these people, Andrea and all these people Dale, and all these people that she's seen. I thought she was always the yin to Rick's yang. So he was so driven by that and so, male, resentful and angry that I thought Carol was able to kind of sidestep that and find a certain zen to it.
Yeah.
That being said, guys, man, when she said, "Look at the flowers," to me, that's the most controversial episode that The Walking Dead said. The Negan and Lucille thing, to me, nothing compared to that. And I want to say I was in Atlanta. Was that an Atlanta Walker Stalker episode? I wanted to say a Halloween episode, an October episode that they were doing their podcast, James Frazier and Eric, his partner in San Francisco. And they had me on that. And I was like, you know what? I am not supporting this episode. And just because you can't pull a trigger on a child. I just, no matter what, for me, you just can't. I can't imagine doing it. But I'm not in those shoes, so it's a good argument. So Carol is complex of anyone. I think it's brilliant what they've been able to do. That being said, sorry to talk.
No, it's okay.
There are characters that are driven by the actors, driven by the talent, the personality, the imagination of the actors that inhabit them. And sometimes that overcomes the writing. And I think there are times when someone like Melissa McBride does her thing, it fills a lot of what that writing is or is not.
Right.
There's a lot of subtext that's going on. So all those little aside, those complications, the easiness, the baking of the cookies, there's a lot there that's Melissa and not Carol, or becomes Carol, you see. And so these are great things. I love Norman Reedus. Norman Reedus taught me a lot on the show. We've been knowing each other for years here in Hollywood. And so he was actually the only one on the show that I knew when I arrived. I had met Scott Wilson, God rest his soul, several times. I didn't know him as well as Norman, but Norman would talk about how to grow your character by being active, kind of. And I used to call him Johnny Appleseed because he would spread these seeds for the writers to pick up on. There was no crossbow written in any script or any motorcycle. Norman built all of that as part of, And so you do have a chance to do that. And I think the show, the thing, Chris and Ryan, that you're talking about when the show changes and your audience, it changes probably because of these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the comic doesn't have a Melissa McBride
right
at the wheel of Carol. It just has Carol, right?
Right.
And so the show does change with the driver, of which makes it vitally interesting. That makes it human. And so I wonder about how, and yet everything that we've seen seems to me to be absolutely right. There'll be people who will disagree. There'll be people who say, yeah, that wasn't anything the way the comic was, and it was way better than the comic. And I'll acknowledge that. I'll hear that argument for sure.
Yeah.
I also think that Carol's had, I'll say it, the best character development of any character on the show.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree. And
as far as having layers, he's got layers, just layers.
Yeah. And so the show recognizes that and builds for it. And then the show gets confused. For me, Michonne and Daryl for 2 seasons had this same storyline, this brooding anti-hero that needed to find some assertion. And I thought that was confusing for the audience.
Yeah.
We need one or the other, to me, now they've been able to sort that out, I feel like. They really found a way to do it when they made the association or the relationship with Rick and Michonne. But if you think about it, it sort of circumvented the relationship with Daryl and Rick. And so who leaves? I spent years or seasons saying one's got to go, Michonne or Daryl. Mm-hmm. Am I the only one you've ever heard say that?
No. Well, Michonne, I haven't heard too many people say anything about Michonne. Obviously, you have the people that if Daryl leaves, we riot kind of stuff, but,
Well, there's that. That's sort of a personal, emotional thing.
Yeah.
But then at the end, the show does something brilliant and says, you know who's leaving? Rick. Right in the middle. To take out the heart. See how we live.
Yeah.
And so, sorry, next question.
No, look, I can tell you one thing right now, okay? And I guarantee that everybody listening and watching right now is going to agree with me. There's only been one other person who has completely captivated and shut down our chat where everyone, where everyone was just listening because they didn't want to miss anything. The only other person to do that is Xander Berkeley.
It's so funny because we're good friends. There's nothing funny I think about it other than when we're together, we might be rather funny together. We are friends. We have been knowing each other. Xander is he's a mentor for several. I'm not a young guy, but when I first came to Hollywood, he was kind of that guy, and he's been a really great actor in everything he's done. And he's also been a very kind, charitable artist that's reached out to all of us and invited us to barbecues or dinners. And he's kept track of our careers. So interestingly, he and I were doing an episode of Longmire. It was not long after I want to say I left the show in like February, and maybe in April I'm doing Longmire, and Xander's in the episode, and it was a lot of fun, and we were together, and when this was in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and we were kicking around and having dinners and talking about, work and everything, and he had done 24 forever, right? And I found that to be so interesting because for me, 24 was a defining moment of what we have today, the precursor of binge watching television.
Yep.
people had 24 parties. They would collect all the episodes and then watch it for 24 hours. That was to me the birth of binge watching.
Right.
Yeah. And he was a big part of that, and it held up on that. And so I was interested in that. And then, I don't know, geez, a year later or something, he called me one day and said, "Tell me about The Walking Dead." And I said, "We already talked about that." He said, "Well, look, I'm going to get an offer." And I said, "Oh, dude, that's great." And so he asked about the things that are the working parts, what are the people like? And you're going to go join this family. I couldn't be supportive enough. And I said, "Yeah, dude, you got to do yourself a favor. I know you've worked at a high level of shows, of which he has.
Right.
But I said, you're going to go to work with these folks, and they are as good as you're going to be with. And the response from the audience is going to probably give you more joy than anything you've ever done. You're going to be more engaged with your audience than you've ever been." And I think he would say that. So it doesn't surprise me that he would talk on your show the way that I would and be as engaging. He is just in general. He was Gary Oldman, I think, had only done one other movie before they did Sid and Nancy. Mm-hmm. And Xander Berkeley was like on the forefront of that in your city, in New York.
Yeah.
And Xander was like, he was a young man, but he was the old pro on that set, trying to keep Oldman, hey, you're going to want to make sure you're out of the shadow and in the light right here, Gary. These things, that's beautiful. And so I think that was a joy. Probably I never worked on The Walking Dead with Xander Berkeley, but I did a lot of work with, again, I'll say God rest his soul, and we miss Scott Wilson, Herschel. And so I spent a lot of time with Scott smoking cigars, talking about his career and the very interesting things that he did. And yet Scott was so enthused with The Walking Dead. And I hear Xander's the same way, so enthused with doing an apocalyptic show about survival and having never taking it for granted, never taking it as anything but serious. And both these guys, and that's an example for young people on the show. There's some young people getting their first swings at things on the show and really delivering. So, and to me, that's also trend setting as The Walking Dead is doing. So good on Xander.
I think one of the coolest things that Xander did, well, there's two cool things from Atlanta, but we had our friend Tim with us, and he's a young artist who's kind of finding his footing in the Walking Dead family as far as being an artist, and we were kind of bringing him around and introducing him to different artists, different actors that we have become friends with because of our show, and kind of just getting him out there and seeing everybody. And so we introduced him to Xander, and it was funny because Xander had to go to a panel. Yeah. And so Xander looks at him and goes, "Here, give me your sketch pad." And Tim's like, "Okay," and he hands it to him, and he's like, "Look me in the eyes." And he's like, and he starts drawing Tim, and the Walker Stalker employee is like,
like, "Come on, I gotta go."
And Xander's like, and just going at it, and I'm like, this is pretty cool. He's trying to help encourage this young artist, and that's a testament to who he is. And I actually, when I had my seizure in Georgia, I was on his line, and so he decided to give me an autograph.
Yep, I know.
And I'm like, thanks, Ed. I really appreciate it. You know what I mean? But it's like it's funny because it was just like, that goes on, and he's like, "Here you go. This is my favorite picture from The Walking Dead. And it's him holding the apple."
Hilarious. He's great. It's good, and he does avail himself for the public, And I think he recognizes what the value of it is. Not just, for his artistry, I think. It is important. It's important to hear about what you are or are not doing. Sometimes people hey, you sucked. And that's okay. That's okay. You need to hear that. It's not all a participation trophy.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. And sometimes your criticism helps you raise your game.
Yep.
It does. It does. And that goes for this show, because every week there's a review about the show, several, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And, we're aware of that. And every week, the great thing was, collectively, we take a side Friday morning. It's Saturday morning. We'd be done with the episode Saturday morning because we could work Friday all night into the morning and feel like we did something really great. But then we'd all recognize, Monday we've got to show up and do even better. And so I think there is that push. And I think that's why the show does well and is successful.
No, definitely. Don't mind me. I had to fix a typo.
You had to fix something real quick. I was like, what did he do? Let's talk. All right. So Jeannie and Nick, they're in Texas.
Yeah, Texas.
You actually met you met Nick. You got a couple of pictures that his mom was showing us. So they want to know: do you have a favorite scene that you filmed on The Walking Dead? And she also wants to just let you know that she really appreciates you being so amazing with your fans.
Oh, that's kind. Thank you very much, Jeannie. Jeannie or Gina?
Jeannie and Nick.
Jeannie and Nick. Yeah, thanks. Love Texas. Lived in Houston for many, many years, and so I've always, from Louisiana, I've always loved Texas. My favorite scene on The Walking Dead, there's a variety of them for different reasons, but if you're putting my feet to the flames, which sound like you are, Jeannie, I think it would be the scene with Carol and Beth, and you must be you got the short hair,
right?
Must be a lesbian. And the reason I say that is because of the dynamic of how that scene was built. We were supposed to shoot that the following day, and we were getting ahead of schedule for a change, and the director said, let's throw that scene inside. We're lit, and we can get it knocked out and move on to something else tomorrow. And Melissa and I were like, oh, well, that's a pretty big scene. We'd rather not push that. He goes, really? And I think the director sensed that it was kind of a big scene and wanted to remove any preciousness from it, and recognized, if I can get these guys in before they think about it too much, which we already had. We'd talked about it, thankfully, because and the scene was really, it works because of Melissa's reactions to all the things Axel is offering. And her reactions are just perfect. And so I really adored, we had worked all day, we were tired, and there was a certain just nonplussed presentation of Melissa's work that was so right in the moment. So I really love the fact that, I'm not a lesbian, and that Axel would just turn it right away and go, oh, my, this is interesting, and to be able to say, oh, well, shit, I had that wrong. Very honestly, after stereotyping, yeah, you must be a lesbian. You got the short hair. And then spinning it and saying, well, maybe we could hook up. As long as you're not a lesbian, then clearly we can do it. As if, well, I might need to be attracted to you. Well, I've been locked up with a lot of dudes, so that doesn't really matter. It's just square hole, round peg. Any port storm, really. I love that Axel would wear, because he always wore his heart on his sleeve, and said, for me, he said what the audience was always wondering or thinking. He was always like, what's with the short hair? I'm going to call it like to see it. So I really enjoyed that one. There was my favorite scene as being part of or being exposed to is that Rick comes out, or pardon me, Carl comes out of a section of the prison, and ostensibly we'd never seen Chandler before, or Carl. Of course, we've met him on set and everything, and rehearsed. But in the scene, it's the first time we see this boy, and he comes out carrying a baby and a gun.
Yeah.
And Rick's breaking down. It's just mayhem, and just the bewilderment of Oscar and Axel there, wondering what has happened. What, just trying to come to terms or grips with this world that has entirely changed, having been in the prison and not been exposed to the outside and what is going on. And then this thing happens.
Well, that's like, that's one thing that's always kind of gotten me about The Walking Dead. And Carl, at the prison, was one of my favorite characters on the show, period. And that's to date, because it seemed like they were building him up, and it kind of got to the point where you have this young kid who, for all intents and purposes, is around like 10, 11, 12 years old, and he just had to kill his mother to prevent her from coming back as a zombie, and that was like a huge character development for him, because he kind of had to snap into it, into kind of like being an adult almost, and like you said, you see him carrying a baby and a gun, and it's like, what the hell just happened? You know what I mean? And
we talked a lot about that, Andrew Lincoln leading the discussion, about the fact that most of the characters on The Walking Dead had a childhood, a pre-apocalyptic, a pre-Walker childhood. And we had dreams and hopes that had nothing to do with the world that we were experiencing today. What were Carl's dreams to be? What were his hopes? What was his upbringing to be? You talk about a dysfunctional childhood.
Yeah.
And on the other side of Carl is Chandler Riggs, who, as you said, was just a 10-year-old boy at the time. For him to do that kind of heavy lifting as an actor was no actor should be put through that, let alone a 10-year-old boy. And for him to do it, I thought, with as much grace and talent as he did, is amazing. And I was blown away with A, that he was being asked to do this type of thing, and B, he was delivering. And I think The Walking Dead does that it puts young talent, and we're going to see this now too, because we got some really young players step forward, and they put a lot of confidence in them, not unlike a rookie quarterback or something. But they don't set them up to fail. Let's put it that way. There's a safety net. They're going to protect them.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're solid there, and they're going to protect us too as the audience members. They're not going to let us fall down with expectations that are not met. But those two scenes, particularly Jeannie, I thought were a lot of fun. There were scenes that I would laugh. Believe it or not, there are times where the show, the work is so focused and intense that sometimes you just have to laugh to break the tension. And there were times at that time, as I said, Andrew Lincoln was the focus of the show. He would try different things. This guy, this artist was tireless in trying to get it right. That was just, we got to get it right. And so we had the latitude, because there weren't all these other storylines, to be able to find that for him.
Yeah.
But man, some of the things that he tried were crazy and funny to watch, because it was a little bit of the season where he was kind of losing his mind, seeing Lori in the dress and the wedding get dressed, and Shane, and talking on the phone to Morgan, and it was interesting and fun almost always to observe. I was at a place in my career where I was really comfortable being an observer in a scene and not feeling that I had to push anything, and it was a lot of fun to be part of it. When it was my time, then I was there to support and do some lifting. And I thought everybody was crazy talented and up to the task. It was impressive. And Andrew Lincoln leads that. He greets everybody with a warm welcome and an invitation to be part of the team and the family. And come on, brother, we need some help doing the lifting. Can you lend a hand? And you really feel like you're part of it. So yeah. So that was great. I remember Norman, the motorcycle scene. We're trying to have this conversation. It's his brother's motorcycle and Merle's, and he's trying to take care of it. We know that we're going to get to Merle down the road, and Daryl meeting Merle. And for some reason, Norman just didn't want to engage in that conversation. Well, whose motorcycle is this? Is it yours or your brother's? And so he just kept revving it up. And that scene was so loud, I couldn't talk over the motorcycle running. And it made it kind of comical, which I always appreciate that, too. I felt like The Walking Dead at that point. We'd been a long season in Herschel's farm up to that point in the prison. And see, it had gotten a little heavy. And I felt like I wanted Axel to come in and bring a little lighthearted, not necessarily comedy, but yeah, a few laughs. There wasn't much to laugh about, so I did try to bring that forward. And I liked having the opportunity. The writers were nervous. They didn't want, we're in a very serious setting, but okay, you follow me? We can add a few of those. I'm like, yeah, that's what Axel says, do. And now I think when we have Cooper, the Jerry stuff, I think we like seeing it. Yeah. It's part of the hope, right?
Yeah. I don't mind the little subtle ease off that you get where you get to kind of smile or giggle a little bit, like it is still life. And yes, we understand the setting, but it is still life. And if you're not laughing, you know what I mean? You got to laugh at some points. I mean, it's disturbing and the things that are happening around you are terrible most of the time. But if it's just constantly scowling and being angry at the world,
you got to find the diamond in the rough almost.
Yeah,
what I mean?
You got to have that one person who you can get like that lightheartedness from.
Yeah, so, I felt like I wanted to, to bring that.
I think you did. I think you
really
did very well. I think you did a great job.
I like the Oscar Axel dynamic. I felt like that was great. I think the playfulness between the two, the friendship. I mean, look, we were 5 guys. I was the only white guy in and amongst that group, right? I mean, you got 3 black guys and a Latino and me, a Southern cracker white guy.
Did you know Vincent? Michelle actually asked, she wanted to know, did you know Vincent before The Walking Dead?
I did not. I'd never met him. I didn't know any of those gentlemen. And I was happy to know that all of them. Right. And we were a happy bunch and figuring it out. And I had by far more experience than any of them, but I recognized that we all had some work to do and different work to do, and however I could be serviceable for them and that place in the work. And then I think it all just evolved. I think that our relationships began to evolve, and it was clear that Tomas was the alpha male and he was going to lead it, but he was a bit of a tyrant. We weren't all entirely happy, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Big Tiny was just that. He was a lover, and he got a bad rap and a bad shake. And then, Marquise's character was not cool, man. And so Vince was more, I think, a guy that I connected with amongst the 5 in the prison, and that helped because we were going to be the 2 survivors through that. And I give the show a lot of credit for building or watching what was going on and recognizing the relationships and heightening those that, when we're being held hostage and Rick has to decide whether he's going to pop us, which at that time, I mean, he'd only ever killed I think the Nebraska episode where he goes into the bar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where kind of was that unmeditated, violence,
right.
Because when you start taking that kind of justice into your own hands, it started becoming, are you lost? Which was, becomes the theme all the way through Rick's character.
Right. Yeah. Right.
What is right? And so I think there was a moment where he was going to shoot both Oscar and us. Now there was a point, interesting, where something didn't seem right. I was begging for my life, and I think it was written that Vincent was begging for his life, and that it was too much, two of the same. And also being in that setting, in that environment, in the South, black guys don't typically beg for their lives because no one's going to listen.
Mm.
A white guy is entitled because somebody will listen, and that seemed truer. And so we got that rewritten so that Vincent was able to say, you do what you got to do. I never begged for my life. I'm not going to start now. And that seemed right. And I think that's why the show again succeeds. And that was a bold thing to do because they were like, really? And I was like, yeah, to be honest, I would be begging. I'm white. Someone's going to listen to me. And to have that kind of conversation and for them to recognize or be amenable to that really shows me at that time, like, wow, this show's really invested in getting it right. And as Rick would say, or Andrew Lincoln would say. And so we always did. It felt good, to get it right.
Yeah.
And I knew every day going to work, we're going to get it right. It might not be easy, but we're going to get it right.
Well, we've heard from so many people that working with Andrew Lincoln, he is just powerful on set and really makes everybody have to be at their A game all the time. So
I mean, you see how hard he works, and you recognize, look, he's working, and he's got the line load, he's got the brunt, he's the bulk of the work.
Mm-hmm.
At that time in season 3, he was doing everything. We were starting to splinter off a little Governor story, but for the most part, all roads were still leading back to Rick. And he was working so hard that you couldn't help but go, I got to help out. I got to be okay and do this, So, and he was open to collaboration, open to suggestion, open to adjustment. He was very good with everyone my season. And what's great is when I talk to other people all the way up to this past season, entirely the same.
Yeah.
These 3 started. It was Andrew Lincoln, Sarah Wayne Callies, and John Barenthal. And they started this show. We're going to do a silly zombie show. And we're going to get 6 episodes. It's based on a comic book that is popular, but that doesn't mean TV. And no one knows who we are. Certainly Andrew had a little, at least from Love Actually, a little notoriety. But so let's do the best work we can and feel good about it when this show gets canceled. That has never changed. That's the same invitation you get when you come to that show. And I so appreciate that. And that gets passed on from castmate to castmate. That's the same thing, that I would tell Chad Coleman Tyrese when he showed up and as I was leaving,
Mm.
So that's what was instilled. That's the foundation of the show. Question.
For us? Or for you? Oh, I thought you were going to ask us a question.
I'm waiting for it. I'm like,
no.
All right. Next question is from Linda.
Linda's from France.
Yes, Linda's from France, and she is awake right now watching.
Ça va?
Let me see. She's got a bunch here. I want to try to pick a really good one to start off with.
Oui, ça va bien.
Ça va bien. C'est bien. C'est bien.
That's about all I know. I took 8 years of French, and it's down the drain right now.
It's down the toilette.
Les toilettes, yeah.
Did you? Oh, that's great. She's in France and she is watching.
Yeah.
That's
Probably.
admirable. That is done.
She's a faithful follower. She does it every podcast. She'll be awake until 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Along with Gay Martinez, who's out in the UK, Lucy, who's out in the UK.
Yeah.
I mean, we have some faithful. Like I said, we got some faithful people here that are family, and they'll stay up 1, 2, 3 in the morning, no problem.
Linda.
Let me see, Linda. All right, so Linda always has a ton of great questions. So
yeah,
I just want to. Okay.
I'll give shorter answers, guys.
Oh, sorry. No, it's okay. No, believe me. There's no apologies needed. Everyone loves it.
Trust me, I love when shows go like this. It's so much easier that way.
Here's a good one. She said 21 years of career and more than 30 movies and series. What is your secret to your longevity?
Breathing. The only thing
Staying alive.
Yeah, it's the only thing I consistently do. What I try to do, I remember that when I got started, I tried to always, be so diverse. And then I realized, what that really means is I never want to do the same thing twice or be the same character twice or play the same guy twice. And ultimately, I think I've always approached things to try to be really different or look for things that are different. And I think that difference, the difference in the type of work or the characters that I do has kept my imagination fertile. Mm-hmm. And how do I do this? How do I go about delivering this? How do I make this different? And somebody would say, well, they're all the same guy, but the subtlety of their differences is enough for me to keep that garden green. And I think that, Linda, is probably the main focus as to how do I keep hanging in there. The little thing that I talked about giving in to the wisdom of the unknown. I don't know my next role. I don't know where it's coming from or with whom, but I know it's going to be great. And I'm excited to see that. I think that keeps me engaged in my career and in my work and in my art. I think I'm always lately particularly looking to work with new people and do new things, new directors, new types of television, streaming.
Mm-hmm. So like challenging yourself, basically.
Yeah, just you give me a chance to do something that's not, and to find new venues or outlets of creativity, like writing, producing, and/or directing. All these things I can see myself. I think if you talk to Xander, he'd say the next thing I'll be doing is directing and writing and artistry, obviously. Those are things that keep you fresh.
Right.
Yeah.
It should be fresh. That's not to say that there hasn't been a time where I've been felt. Don't think that I've ever felt like the same old. I think occasionally the grind of going out to secure work, like audition after audition, there has been times where they feel fruitless. And those are the things you have to keep really fresh, because every audition needs to be different. You can't bring in the audition for The Big Bang Theory into your audition for The Walking Dead. Right. You've got to change that gear. And an actor told me many years ago, know the play you're in, which simply means you should know the venue you're going in for, know the tone of what it is, and be adjustable for that. So I think you have to be on top of your skill set. You should be competent with your skills, which, become your imagination first, your retention of detail to the material, your instrument being your voice, your body, your face, your camera technique. These are all things technically you should be on top of and continuing to be growing with or getting better. A few years back, I went to a well-known acting coach in Hollywood to just try to change it up. Something wasn't working, at least. And he's like, your work is really good. He goes, but I can't believe you get work. Your camera technique is terrible. And he actually showed me through a bunch of films and showed me things that I were doing. And they were just simple things that caused an editor to actually pull off of my scene and cut to someone else based on bad camera technique, which isn't because I didn't know, just that you get lazy. You fall into traps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm always reading. I'm always reading scripts. I'm always engaged in storytelling. At the end of the day, guys, look, you're doing it right now. The two of you, Chris, Ryan, you're both storytellers. You're telling a story today. You're continuing. You tell a story every week, and as storytellers, you know how to do that. You're getting better. New York Comic Con just updated that you're getting better.
Yeah.
And so you want to continue to, because you have a story to tell, and no one can walk out on their story.
Yeah.
Every person must tell their story. And so we all continue to do so. And I think, Linda, that's what's kept me moving forward. It might be as simple as there's not too many big-nosed, blonde-haired, skinny rat-like character actors out there. But if you look at it, there are. Jesus. John Hawkes has made a damn good career. Ray McKinnon, and I, we've got Emilio Austin. All of a sudden, he's the young blood coming up and coming on strong. James Landry Hebert. I see there's a ton of Lew Temples. But there isn't. There's only one. There's one Lew. There's one Chris, and there's one Ryan, one Matt, and one Linda, and we're all one. But we're our best self. And when you get to having done something for a long time, you realize, look, they only want to know Lew. They don't ever really want to know Axel. They just wanted to know Lew. And so the younger people, guys, are going to know this better because they're brand aware.
Right.
They're so focused on understanding their brand.
Right.
Here's what I do. Here's what I do. And they're really good at it. And that's why they're becoming stars so quickly, because they know how. They're not getting pushed around. Oh, he started as he was a cowboy and then he transitioned into a leading man, Robert Redford or Clint Eastwood. We're not doing that crap anymore. We're just giving it Channing Tatum. Bang. Wow. Good. Ryan Gosling, brooding, handsome, silver book lining, you're the star. Bang. They know their brand.
Right.
So we got to know. You got to know your brand.
Well, it's like, Lew, I think you made a really good point where you kind of said that, people want to see Lew Temple. They don't necessarily want to see Axel because they've seen that already. And I think that's one thing that is unique about our show that we've been able to offer people is kind of like this indirect way of them talking with the actor, not the character.
Right.
And they get to see your personality and your mannerisms and who you are, because when you're an actor, you're literally getting paid to be somebody else. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like we're not necessarily seeing the real you. And so on the show, we are. And that's why I think that we kind of have such a unique opportunity with this whole thing, is that we've been able to offer people this very unique look into the actor or actress's life, right. And I think that's one thing we provide.
And when you have someone who's so articulate as you are when you speak, and being able to, tell a story and give people actual visual insight to the situations you've been in, the characters you've been in, it just tells this story on its own, where it's like, and everybody literally it just
they're captivated.
has just been captivated by you.
Yeah. Oh, that's kind. That's great. I'm glad, Linda. That's a good question, and thanks for asking. Yeah, it feels like 21 years. You know, and you know, you always feel like, well, look at the back of my baseball card and everything that I've accomplished, and it should be easier. And it isn't because of evolution. You know, it keeps changing and it keeps evolving. And I think when you feel like you can't change, you should get out. Yeah. Because one thing is certain, two things are certain. I don't know about death and taxes, but I do know about change for sure. And when I get a little lost, I know that the North Star is going to be right above me where I always look. And that I will look and see it, and I will know that tomorrow will change. And so that should keep you moving forward if you can. But if you can't, then you got to put your pen down and go do something else. You know, if you can't adjust. And it's been hard for me. We've gone through a lot of change technology-wise in this industry, not our industry, the music industry, every industry. Mm-hmm. You know, yeah. I mean, think about it. We used to just do film, right? And the news did things on videotape, and then we got home box office theater and VHS tapes, which started as porn, by the way, and then it transitioned into family entertainment. We could actually run our Disney movies home. Dad doesn't have to take everyone out to the theater. We can pop it into this player and watch things at home. Mm-hmm. And then we evolved from that and went into the discs, the DVDs, to Blu-rays, and now we're streaming. So every one of those transitions, there's been a change, mm-hmm. a change in how to do business, but more than anything, a change in the contract negotiation of what that deal is. And we've had to adjust as performers to those changes, and it hasn't always been to our benefit. In fact, I can't remember the last time it's been to our benefit. So for instance, things used to be, we used to have a thing called reruns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd get paid again for the show that I did playing again. And now that doesn't happen. We used to rent movies, you know, and now we stream them. If you rented the movie at the box or at the video store, I did okay. But now that you stream it, I get nothing, barely, okay? So each one of these contracts has been watered down to make it a different way of earning a living as a performer. And the music industry experienced this. They realized, and you know, they're lost on the property that they own. You know, they make money selling T-shirts at their concerts, really. Good question, Linda.
Let me see. I got another one from, I'll pick another one from, let me actually grab one from Gay real quick, who's in the UK. Gay wants to know, because everyone's been asking about Limbo.
Oh, nice.
But she also wants to touch on, ask you about Homeless Ashes. She says, I'm looking forward to seeing Lew in that, as it is Mark Zamet's first feature as director. You want to touch on Limbo and Homeless Ashes for everybody?
Yeah. I want to directly touch on Homeless Ashes for Gay because it's in her homeland. We shot that in London this past summer. This is a project that Mark Zamet wrote, directed, and raised the money for. So interesting how he goes about doing it, and it's such his approach as an artist interested me to the point I want to get involved. So he's a guy that is he's a working actor in London, but certainly not a household name and not working as much as others and more than some. But he realizes, look, I have to establish a factor of trust. Okay, so some of the things that the BMNY has is a factor of trust amongst its audience. That's why you built this type of family. So he realized that he needed to be a brand that was trusted. In other words, a social media influencer. How do you do that? So he goes about learning and takes a year to understand how to do that, how to get his blue tick, you know? And when he does, he builds a network that's far-reaching, many different circles, and they all come together to trust him, of which he then takes that 2.3 million followers and says, I'm going to make a movie. Can you help in my crowdfunding? And because he built this brand that he's trusted, he was able to build this financing.
Yeah.
The movie's about homelessness in London. Homelessness is an epidemic everywhere. I mean, huge here in Los Angeles. I mean, epidemic. I'm not even kidding. And I'm sure in New York as well. And in London, it surprised me. And it's just people that have fallen on hard times. Any one of us are stepped, sadly, from that peril. And this is a story of that. And I wanted to be a part of it. I liked the script very much. I like Mark very much. And then when I went over to shoot it, I was very delighted by the folks that I was working with. And I'm really, really excited about it. And I'm certain that London, as well as the UK, will get behind it. It will do quite well.
Yeah.
So thanks for asking on that. I had a great time filming and made a lot of great friends, to the point where I would like to work in London much more. I think it's always had a fine independent film scene, but I think it's rebounding and coming back from the Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch type of Guy Ritchie stuff. I think it's coming back to tell personal stories.
Yeah.
I think it's coming back to get a little more diversity in its storytelling, going away from the sort of the rom-coms or the period pieces. And I think that the UK has a building a new indie scene over there. So good on that, and good on Mark Zammit, and I'm proud to be a part of that. Really fantastic cast of actors in that movie as well. Limbo is a movie that I have a friend who I work with, Mark Young, and he and I have done 3 movies together. This was the 3rd. I'm trying to think if that's right. Yes. And so Mark makes these very interesting, in-depth art house films along the lines of James Josh or Jarmusch is a good one. John Sayles, comparatively. So Limbo is a movie about a fella that is in purgatory, neither heaven nor hell, but he's in a courtroom being represented by an angel from heaven working for our good Lord. And the prosecuting district attorney is working for Satan, and they are judging the soul of my character, and it's fascinating. So it's a bit of a courtroom drama, 12 Angry Men, but then there's a lot of cutbacks to the life that this guy led. So it's kind of the antithesis of A Wonderful Life. It's sort of like, oh, you really sucked, you're really shit, and we're having a hard time finding any redeeming quality of your life. It looks like you're taking the elevator down, and then there's a spin at the reveal at the end. And again, an incredible cast. For those of you who've seen the trailer, I think it's really stand out. It's lovely. Lucian Collier, who's a Brit, who's adorable, fronts it with myself and Scotty Thompson, who's lovely. And then James Purefoy, our old buddy, is in it, and Peter Jacobson, and they're fantastic. And Richard Riley, do you know Richard? He's amazing, and he's in it. And oh my gosh, Veronica Cartwright, and she's delightful. So it's an amazing cast. It looks great. It looks very, very here and now TV Black Mirror-ish. But it does have a bit of a dark comedy side to it. So I think it will run some festivals starting this spring, and then maybe we can look for a release in the fall for Limbo.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah,
I'm excited for both of those movies.
If anybody wants to check out that the preview for it, I know that I believe Camp Merrimack, I believe they retweeted it for you.
Yep.
And actually, for those of you who don't know as well, in case you don't know, Lew will be at the Camp Merrimack Charity Bash in May.
Lew, I'm getting a selfie with you.
Yeah. So, and I mean, we'll be there, and you're going to be there.
I'm going to be there. Vincent Ward's going to be there.
Vincent Ward will be there. Oscar, your boy Oscar from the show.
And
Axel and Oscar right again.
We'll re-team with a dynamic duo. We'll be there, I think, the 25th of May. We're going to be there all weekend. So I want to say 24, 25, 26. We'll be busy in Sonoya, Georgia with a lot of events. And that's, if you haven't been there, it's a great place. It's great to see where the show is filmed. A lot of locations. They've got a great community it's a Walking Dead Disneyland sort of, or Universal.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a lot to do and see and recognize, and you can go over to Nick and Norman's and have a very tasty lunch or dinner. I haven't been there yet, but I hear the food's great.
I've been there once, and it is pretty good. I tell you what, though, Lew, I mean, like I said, I got to meet you briefly in Atlanta. We spoke. You did the coolest thing by taking one of your photos, turning it on its backside, and giving us all your contact information. And you were like, whenever you're ready, reach out to me. And after spending, I mean, we've been doing this for an hour and a half already. I can't wait to meet you again in person and just be able to like do this more.
Yeah. I want to get you and Xander in the room together.
We'd have a lot to talk about. I promise you, we'd be both wearing hats. We're men of hats.
That's okay.
That's okay. I like wearing hats.
Hats are cool. I mean, and you had on a really nice like cowboy hat in Atlanta.
Yeah, I have a fine collection of cowboy hats and boots, and I don't mind dressing. You know, I like to hold up the gentleman's style now and again. I'm comfortable tonight.
Yeah.
But no, I've enjoyed this, and I appreciate everybody's input and offering. And it's important, I think, to share.
Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't be more pleased with you being on with us tonight. I mean,
trust me, even if it's, if a guest is able to give us half an hour, an hour and a half, in Xander's case, he gave us, I think like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Whatever you guys can give us, we are more than honored to have you guys here.
And we're not saying goodbye right now.
No, we're not.
Don't get nervous, anybody out there. If you still got any time to offer us, you still good to go? Hello? Did we lose?
Still here.
Oh, okay. You got like another 20 minutes or so? Are you good?
I do. Yeah. Sure.
All right. Cool. This made a lot of people happy.
Yeah.
Great. That's what we're here for. Make people happy.
We just wanted a break. We wanted to take a quick break and throw the Camp Merrimack thing in there and make sure everybody knew that you were going to be there.
Yes, thank you for doing that, and Oscar appreciates that, as does Vincent. Yes, both all three of us.
Well, Vincent, we're trying.
And Michelle, I'll see if I can run Vincent down and get him on the show for you. He'd like it.
That'd be amazing.
That'd be awesome.
Thank you.
He's got a lot going. He and Snoop Dogg are out doing a play.
Really?
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
I haven't seen it because it's been on the road, but the first chance I get to see it, I think it's called Legend of a Dog, and I think it's based on Snoop Dogg's life. And I'm not sure what Vincent Ward does in it, but I can tell it's pretty good.
That's awesome.
Really cool.
Yeah. I would absolutely watch that.
Where's Pie's question?
Pie asked a question.
Pie says she asked a question. Let's see if we can find Pie's question. It's probably in the chat somewhere. While we look for Pie's question, I'll find another question that's in here. I will go to one of...
We better find Oscar's question, too, otherwise he's going to be all upset.
Oscar's question?
Yeah.
He had a question?
A while ago.
Oh, we'll get to Oscar's.
Yeah, Oscar will always have questions.
Well, let's make this easy. Pie and Oscar, send your questions in the chat.
Yeah, there you go. Send your
Instead
questions
of me
again.
scanning through for them.
Yeah, send your questions again, and then we'll pull them out of the chat. Do you happen to like? Do you like pie? Are you a pie fan?
Like the square root of pi, pi r squared, or
No, like pie, like eating pie.
I love pie. I had a strawberry rhubarb pie for Christmas that was exceptional. I like all berries. I like all berry pie. Yeah, I guess what other kind of pie is there? There may be chocolate or Boston cream pie. I like a coconut cream pie.
Nice key lime for me.
Yeah, key lime is excellent. I try key lime all over, particularly when I'm Florida, South Florida. Key lime pie down in Key Biscayne or West Palm Beach, down in that area, quite nice. Yeah, I like banana cream pie. I do. Yeah, I have a diverse pie flavor. I did a movie called Waitress, which is a really delightful, quirky, dark comedy love story, which is now a Broadway play, by the way.
Okay.
And it's about a pie shop, and the lead, played by Kerry Russell, is somebody that's very proficient at making pies. And so we had a lot of pies going on. The movie's about making pies. So yes, pie. I like pie.
Yeah, well, that's so pie. So here's the thing: we've never pie. I always feel terrible.
Always butchered the name.
I always feel terrible because pie is from Finland. Here's another thing we always mess up. We know where everybody is except pie.
But I can't remember if it's like Netherlands or Finland or Switzerland or any of the lands.
It's a land somewhere, but
pie's gonna let you know, that's for sure. I can say it at this point.
I'm not answering the phone right now.
Oscar, stop interrupting. Sorry, Oscar's calling my phone right now.
Of course he is.
So Finland. See, I nailed it. Finland.
Good. You got the Finland.
Yes. So Pie's from Finland, and her question for everybody, because we call her Pie, because her name is, I believe, Pie, baby. It's like P-A-I-V-I or I-V-E, something. Where'd it go? I-V-I. It's P-A, but it's got the two dots above the A.
Yeah.
And I-V-I. So we all call her Pie.
Pavea. Pavea. Pava. Pava.
Ooh, I don't know. Lou might be getting close. So
have to land that V somewhere, but
yeah. So we call her Pie, and then she always likes to ask everybody if the person likes pie.
Yeah, love pie.
Okay, there you go. Pie loves pie. Lou loves pie. Pie. So I'm happy we got that one out of there.
We got that out of the way.
Yeah.
If I don't say this, Lou, I might have somebody from the UK come over and kill me.
We're gonna do this?
No. This is Tiff and Lucy's comment.
Oh, okay.
They want you to know that they will adopt you and love you forever.
Yeah.
I don't know why they said that, but they love you, and yeah.
That is cool.
If you ever need adopting,
yeah,
you got two lovely women that'll do it and love you forever.
Love forever is that's a long time. I plan to live forever. So that's really committing.
They're down.
It gets cold in the UK. They're probably having just the same type of cold winter as yourselves.
Yeah, probably. I just saw in the weather they're about to get hit with the beast of the east. It's another terrible winter they're going to have out there.
Which is weird because the UK, they have really bad winters.
Yeah.
And they had the 1 year where they had a really bad summer where it was really hot and really dry. Then they had the drought and everything.
I remember that.
Yeah, last summer I was there. It was really warm, and they don't have they don't have air conditioning. they don't have an infrastructure for hot weather.
Right. Well, yeah, you spent some time out there, so I'm sure you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oscar's question, real quick. Oscar's question. He says, "Do you know why TV Axel looked nothing like the comic character?"
Well, I don't think I was. I feel like I wasn't physically the same size as the comic book character.
Right.
So I think that, and I don't think I was as aged necessarily or as kind of lived in as much as that Axel. I think we get back to a point of where they decided to cast the person they felt like was the Axel they were looking for, as opposed to casting the Axel that was the two-dimensional character in the comic book.
Right.
You know, I mean, but yeah, that's a good point. Like, I've heard times where they will offer, well, you know what, like Alpha, Ryan Hurst might have been a good Axel. He would be more physically in line with that. Or what's Brian, the comic band, you know, one of the comic book men?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yep.
You know, he might be. Or even a guy like Mark Boone Jr. from Sons of Anarchy, you know, the beefy gentleman.
Yes.
He older guy, you know, he might be a guy that would be good like that. But I think any one of us would be great for that. You know, that's sort of like, why didn't they cast Danny Trejo as the governor? You know, and I don't, just because he might have portrayed the look of it, I don't know that necessarily he is the governor, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Henry Rollins could have done Negan better than J.D. Morgan, right?
Physically, probably.
Yeah.
But not the acting.
Not like personality or acting-wise,
right.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the one knock on JDM is the physical...
Yeah.
The
build, yeah.
Because even though he's a big dude, JDM is not. He's not a broad-shouldered man. He's just tall and slender. And you know, Negan in the comics is kind of like not short, but he's like, you know,
very
broad-shouldered.
Yeah.
He's got like that very, like, you know, square jaw almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's a thick dude. Yeah, I totally, you know. He reminds me of like Mickey Rourke in Sin City or something. You know?
Yes.
You know, so.
But I think Jeffrey D. Morgan killed it as acting wise. Killed it as JDM or as JDM as Negan.
Yeah.
I think that he embodied
They're
that spirit.
Same now. So I think that, Oscar, that's the question, or that's the answer. I think you probably cast the person that is bringing the character that you want, and the physicality can maybe go by the wayside as that goes.
I just want to find out who's running the Squawking Dead page right now, because they said in, you know, replying to what you said, but they chose the more approachable Axel, which was more important in this sense, meaning you.
Yeah. I felt like, well, that was a big part of the Axel that I wanted to present, was a guy that was, if I was going to land, I didn't feel like all of the humor could be just sarcastic and flippant. I felt like it had to be rather endearing. And so I needed Axel to be likable. That was the main thing.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Because look,
people were really sad when that happened.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I mean, you want it to hurt, right? We don't want to go, oh man, I'm so glad to see. I mean, like, I don't know, who's a character we were glad to see? You know, I guess the governor. You know, although I love David Morrissey's character.
Great character.
You know, he did a good job with unlikability. Is Stephen Ogg with
Simon.
With Simon.
Right? You know, we weren't sorry to see Simon get his, were we?
No, I mean,
you know what? And I'm sorry, and I say this with me loving this guy, Xander. You know, I hated Gregory as a character.
Yeah.
But that was the point. Was that Gregory was not a likable character,
mm-hmm.
and that just goes to show you
it's hard for him because he's a very likable
exactly.
person. You all know, and so that was a lot of work for him, and even because he's a very veteran player, he knows that at some point you've got to be liked. So he was able to find moments, but very unctuous. This guy, this Gregory, well, and he knew that going in.
You know, I kind of saw that because I'm a big fan of DC Comics, and I'm a big fan of the TV shows that CW has put out. And Xander was on an episode of Supergirl last season, this current season, and his character is kind of like this blue collar, worker, and he ends up basically not being racist, but like prejudiced against aliens because a big chunk of Supergirl's thing is that there are aliens and they're out and about and they're open to the public, and basically he sees it as the aliens are taking away jobs from humans because some of these aliens have things like super strength and stuff like that. And for me, knowing Xander personally, I know he's not like that. You know what I mean? So I kind of have to sit there and go, that must take a lot of skill.
Yeah, I mean, you do. Look, you get into that place, you find a place that you can connect with it, whether it's something you don't like about yourself or, the place you're in your life. And then when you're done, you got to try to unload that. And sometimes that's not easy. I got to be honest with you. There are things that I've done where it's been really hard to get rid of out from underneath my skin. And I don't like revisiting it that much. And I'm not sure I would.
Yeah.
If there was a sequel. I can remember talking to William Forsythe, and he had done Gacy, I wanted to say, Gacy, with John Gacy, and he said he would never revisit that character, and I understand that. I feel like Steve Railsback was one of the first guys to do Charles Manson in the old Helter Skelter movie, and I don't think he ever recovered from having done that. So, and then, we've had some Charles Mansons since, of which I just worked on a Charles Manson movie.
Really?
It's called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Someone asked about that. Hold on.
See, it all comes full circle. You know what I mean?
Lisa Marie. I don't think Lisa's been around for a while. I think she signed off a while ago, but she did ask, can you tell us anything about your upcoming role in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and what was it like to work with Quentin Tarantino in that impressive cast?
It was like being invited to the All-Star team. It was like being a New York Met being asked to play for the National League All-Star team. You don't really get to play, but you're very honored to be in the team picture, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, look, I can't say anything about what I did other than I was, a fly on the wall. I got to watch Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio and be in scenes with them and Al Pacino and Kurt Russell and Mike Madsen, Jack Nicholson coming out of retirement, and Tim Roth and Damian Lewis, and the list just goes. Margot Robbie, Dakota Fanning, the list goes on and on and on. It is about the Manson murders, the murders of Sharon Tate, played by Margot Robbie. And it's 1969, and it was just an absolute education, just an experience to watch Quentin Tarantino work. He's one of the giants. He's one of these kings, and he's we're shooting on film, which is never done anymore. But it was something, and he's a madman. I've had a chance to work with some amazing directors, Tony Scott being at the top, Gore Verbinski, Alejandro Inarritu, this gentleman, Alphonse Cuarón, Rob Zombie, Quentin Tarantino. So I feel very, very gifted to have been exposed. And a casting director told me that once. She goes, you're a guy that actually works with a lot of good directors, and that's a credit to you and a credit to us who cast you. And I said, okay, thank you. But Tarantino's amazing. He's everything you've heard about, and he's more. He becomes his movie. He's a method director. He knows every character, every line, and he is as excitable and as enthusiastic in his production as you could ever imagine. So, and it was interesting watching, Timmy Oliphant navigate that, or Clifton Collins, or Scoot McNairy, or Luke Perry, or Al Pacino. All these guys sliding in and out. Really super, super cool.
Wow.
So it will be out in August, and I think nobody will be disappointed.
And that's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
For anybody wants to know, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I'm super excited for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we will close out with some questions from our web girl, the one who puts together all our questions for us before our show.
Who's like a lifesaver.
She is a lifesaver. Her name is Renee. And
thank you, Renee. And I used to love lifesavers. You notice we don't have those rolls of lifesavers. They were so cool.
Big bags now. Big bags.
Yeah.
The rolls were cool because you didn't know what flavor you were getting.
Yeah.
Now they're kind of, I don't know. They're like gummy bears or gummies or something.
Although the lifesaver gummies are pretty damn good, not going to lie.
Yeah, but it was just the convenience of having like a quick little mint in your pocket.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now it's like you got to buy a 2-pound bag.
Yeah, and the flavors were great. I mean, look, they used to have a variety of flavors in lifesavers that was akin to a box of Crayola crayons. I mean, there
Except you don't eat crayons, but I mean,
Yeah, you aren't. Yeah, I mean, they had mint, they had peppermint, they had spearmint, they had tropical fruit, they had butterscotch. I mean, there was amazing flavors, and it was all for a kid. It was as much about the aluminum foil inside the wrapper, the shininess, the hole in the lifesaver. But Renee, you are the lifesaver. Let's give her some answers.
So, Renee would like to know, she said on your IMDb you have a lot of things going on that are in the works. What upcoming project are you most excited for? And what has been your favorite horror film to work on?
Ooh, tough. Most excited for, in the big picture, for the Tarantino movie, for the world to see that, because it will be a huge spectacle. But I want to say that I might be most excited for a movie called Come Said the Night, which is a really interesting drama that has a horror element. It's kind of a coming of age, becoming a 13-year-old girl, and what that's like. And I play her father, who at the end I'm something that I would seem not to be. And it also involves Greek mythology, which is quite cool. So it's got elements of Beast of a Southern Wild and Captain Fantastic, which is perfect for me. I think that's ideal. I love those types of genres. Very subtle. Favorite horror movie, I would have to say, is probably The Devil's Rejects in total. And it was something about that movie, I feel like, because every character in that movie had a certain arc. Every character had a life. No matter how large or how small, there was a life that we followed and we invested. It was just something that Rob Zombie caught lightning in a bottle, and it made magic. There was something at the table read. I can remember being there, and it was something with Sid Haig and Bill Moseley and William Forsythe and Ken Foray. It just felt like the Super Bowl, and everybody raised the bar for all of us, and it was such a joy. I got to work. My partner in that movie was Jeffrey Lewis, who, God rest his soul, he's passed. Juliette Lewis's daddy, Clint Eastwood's best friend. He was in all those Every Which Way But Loose movies. It was great working with him, Danny Trejo, Mosley, Sherry Moonzombie, Ken Foray, Sid Haig, Bill Forsythe, the incredible Force. It was just really, really special and a pretty fucking good movie. Pardon me.
Hey, let it fly. It's okay.
Hey, man.
It's a cult classic, I would say, and I'm really, really happy to be part of it. Now they are. Rob has just recently done the sequel to that. Now, how those three, the villains who we came to be rooting for at the end of Devil's Rejects, and they get shot up in a Bonnie and Clyde barrage of bullets by the law. How they made it through there, I don't know. But if anyone can pull it off, Rob Zombie can. And that they made it, and I didn't get asked back to be part of it just because my face got cut off. No, I can understand how I'm not a part of that, but I'm excited for his prequel as well, and it is it's an entirely great mix of the old cast and the new cast. So we'll be looking forward to seeing that.
That is awesome. That is this, Lou. I got to tell you something, man. This has been one of the most entertaining 2 hours of my life. And
that's kind of you to say.
No,
Thank you so much.
I mean it. Like,
I didn't even realize that we were here for an hour and a half until Chris said it before, and I was like,
yeah,
oh wow, we were.
These are the shows that we just love having, and it's for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. That was a lot of fun. You both are very engaging and good at what you do. You're getting recognized because you're doing good work. There's good work to be done. I think the fact that you're available for your audience, you're one of your audience. We are all one. You make it very available and easy. There was a lot of preparation. You were in good contact. Your systems work.
Yeah.
You know,
sometimes
the things I talked about when we were having the conversation about camera technique, they seem so fundamental, but the fact that your system works, that we didn't glitch once, that it's going to be recorded, all those things, that speaks to why the New York Comic Con is asking you to be part of their program, because they can count on you and you become a reliable brand. You've built a brand that you can trust, and at some point you'll be able to go out and solicit those who trust you for help, of which you've already done to, get Xander Berkeley on your show or myself or whomever else. But at some point you're going to grow into something else and use that trust that you've built the way Amazon is using it. And you'll just keep growing, man. Keep doing it for the reason that you love doing it, which clearly is that you like sharing with your people, your family.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That means the world.
Thank you for letting me pontificate.
Hey,
exhortate.
You are more than welcome to come on anytime you'd like. It's an open door policy. You hit us up, and it's all you.
Yep.
I'll be back, and I'll see you in May for sure.
Absolutely.
Down in Georgia.
Yeah, that's going to be a good time.
Right on. Well, thank you. If anybody wants to check out my gig, IMDb always lets you know what's coming out.
Yep.
I'm very active on Twitter, Lew Temple actor. Not very original, but I wasn't being very thought involved at that point in time. Less original on Instagram, which is just Lew Temple. I've got, I think, that Cameo thing. If anyone wants me to do a shout out to them of personal, hit me up on Cameo and I'll say, hey, what's up? Whatever you need. And thank you, fellas. Really appreciate it. Happy New Year. 2019 is already bigger than it was.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for bringing in the 2019 year with us, being our first show of the year.
I mean, you kicked it off with a bang. You really did.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one to beat. Anybody who's next, I feel bad for them.
They'll be great. They'll be absolutely perfect.
Thank you so much, Lew. We will be in touch. You have a great evening and enjoy the warmer weather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll always suffer.
Wishing you lots of health and continued success in what you're doing.
Thank you, guys. All right, we'll talk soon.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Good
Everybody out there, thank you so much for being here tonight. We love you guys. By the way, everyone go check out Squawking Dead, please. They're an excellent podcast as well. So go follow them. Go follow Lew Temple at Lew Temple Actor on Twitter.
Yep.
And you are also on Instagram. What's the handle on Instagram again?
Lew Temple.
Lew Temple.
Yeah.
He's the easiest person to find just because he kept it simple.
Yeah.
Keep it simple and we'll find you.
Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Night, guys.
Bye.
Oh my goodness, that was freaking...